Underfell is one of the oldest, if not the oldest and first Undertale AU. But how was it created, and was it even planned to be so edgy? So the creator fella was a fan of Undertale, as well as badass villains. So she created once a fanart of an evil tutorial that wanted the player to go to sleep. And then, boom! The idea of an evil mom, aka an evil tutorial, was made. From there on, the creator just started going crazy. Like, they thought to themselves, what if Flowey would help Frisk get away from this evil mom, and wants the player to go back to the surface and help them on this journey. And so the AU was created on October 16, 2015 by an 18-year-old fella. Later on, she would create on December 11, 2015 the first Underfell artwork, picturing Underfell Toriel, making Toriel the oldest Underfell cast member. But at first, this AU wasn't called Underfell, it was called Underhell. But this name was later changed because another story, aka another game, got the name Underhell. The creator would create a lot more design Frisk and their newly found evil mom, as well as fan art with Flowey. Later on, the creator would draw with some other people the entire cast of Underfell, and kept it that way, since the first draft of this AU should only be an aesthetic AU, meaning no real story, they would just look different and act different, but didn't have any story behind it, since the creator wanted the fandom to be active and even create design for the more minor characters. But this was a mistake, because at this time the community was pretty edgy and did a lot of bad things that resulted into the edgefest Underfell is today. I mean, for Pete's sake, there exist comics where Sans is a sexual deviant, there exist comics where Frisk is kept on a leash, and worst of all, there's a comic where Papyrus and Sans have sexual relationships. And since only a few canon facts were written, because, as I was mentioning, it was just an aesthetic story, everyone believed that this was canon, and all these comics were based around Fella's creation, while Fella's creation was simply just Undertale, but Frisk having a harder time convincing everyone to be better people. So Fella, who also dealt at the time with stress, depression, and life stuff, also needed to deal with too many edgelord harassing anyone who enjoyed this AU, and an outbreak of not safe for work artwork that everyone misdirected their attention instead of what the AU was supposed to be. So she shut down her blog for everyone and her own sake at the time. But during that time she shut down the blog, she thought more about the story as well as some canon facts. However, she was too embarrassed to go back because everyone kept making fun of anyone who liked this AU, which stressed out a lot of people as well as herself. It stressed her so much that she would most likely always answer with critique that the AU which she created was only just a prank or a meme AU and nothing seriously. But she tried to return to her AU a couple of times after she shut down the blog down, but she was too depressed with her own life to actually do anything in general. It wasn't until she kept receiving heartfelt messages from very kind people telling them how much this AU means to them. She thought about everyone deserved more than a radio silence of her. So she got out of her depression and started multitasking her own life and created the official design, created the official story and a lot of canon facts. But she realized that everyone can and should make their own Underfell story, and she gave the story of Underfell to the community and even encouraged the community to make their own story, own games and even own merch. As you can see, Fella is full supporting of all non-problematic takes and interpretation of Underfell and is very much enjoying them and asking fans not to send hate to AU's take and design just for going outside Fella's personal interpretation. And that was the story of Underfell's creation. Underfell is the oldest AU of this community and the most misinterpreted AU in this community as well, beside murder, killer or lust tale Sans. The biggest misconception about Underfell is that the monster were always evil and started the war. Well, that isn't the case. In fact, at the beginning, there were the same people from the OG Undertale when the war started. But when the monster lost the war, Asgore, hate and fear for humanity, turned him into a monster that human feared. Toriel would try everything to make him reconsider his decision and his perspective, but he remained static. This results into all monster being quite on the edge. So it didn't help that Gaster hit a brick wall with his experiment. Hey G, you know what to do, am I right? I mean, I always say Elphus that you know what to do because you the G, the top G. Am I right or am I right? Please tell me I'm right.
Well, Sans, I am not well versed in the younger generation language, but let me try to copy their speak pattern to explain our current situation. Holy shit, Sans, we are like super fucked. I have no idea how to bring us out of here. And watch Pornhub again.
Oh, well shit. But the edge wasn't over, because now Kara fell down. You see, Kara doesn't hate humanity. She's in fact a nice kid, who believes that humanity did some wrong things, but also believes that monster kind should be once again on the surface. Kara fell down during the time Asgore hasn't completely deranged with hatred, but Kara was still hidden from him by Toriel and Asriel as a secret web to get Asgore out of his edgy state, where he always listens to Linkin Park. But Asriel was quite worried about Kara and their intention. But he quickly realized that Kara was a good human, after seeing how much joy she brought to his mother. But at some point, Asgore would come across Kara before Kara had their speech prepared to confront Asgore to stop with his edgy ways. Who are you? Oh, my dear husband, definitely not a human. Am I right? Yes, I don't know what you think I am, but I am not a human. Am I right, brother? Oh, totally agree. I mean, we would never hide a human and fed him. Well, okay, not human. You may stay here. Want some tea? By the way, this tea is definitely not poison. Oh, I love definitely not poison tea. And it turns out that the tea was poisoned.
What a twist!
And in Kara's final words, they just had one wish. Oh man, I know why you did this, but could you please do me a favor and bring me up to the surface so that I could see the flowers of my town one last time? And Asgore was like, hell no, I wouldn't do that. You are a danger to our society. No one in their right mind would bring you back to the surface. Am I right, son? It turns out that Asriel absorbed Kara's soul and brought their body back to the village. Hey, it wasn't so bad. Well, let's return to Dad and hope he doesn't get a belt. Well, if it's a belt you want, we got one. Humanity's belt, bitch! Oh, fuck. And then Asriel was beaten to a pole by humanity, and he returned back to his home, where he dusted. And, as you may guess, Toriel wasn't such a big fan of his. But Asgore got everything under control. Okay, Toriel, know I fucked up, but hey, at least I don't need to pay child support, am I right? And then Toriel disappeared back to the ruins. And Asgore was like, well, I'm now single because of humanity and not because of my own action. Well, let's start making Sigma belts edit and watch American Psycho. And so Asgore became a heartless monster and a cruel ruler that managed that monster kind also became edgy as fuck, where they're all controlled by their hate and fear. It becomes the monster humanity fear. Underfell Papyrus is edgy as fuck, right? Wrong. Underfell Papyrus is still the same old papyrus. The only real difference is that this papyrus really wants to be seen as cool. And to be seen as cool, he makes sure to look cool as fuck by wearing a red cape, a black battle armor, red gloves, a wrestling mania belt, which symbolizes his victory over Undyne in the battle, which showcases his immense strength, and his red high heels boots, which were given to him by Elphus. But besides looking cool, he acts cool by not laughing but snorting, by saying things like or laughing evilly. But his cool facade is endangered by Papyrus' one weakness, which is his love for evil jokes. Papyrus really hates it when he has to kill someone and feels remorse about it. This is something really unusual, since monster kind in Underfell has no problem with killing any monster. But Papyrus only does it whenever he or his brother are in danger or being attacked. But since he is a royal guardsman, he has to keep his appearance of and status of being a fearsome guy. So whenever the topic of killing or death comes up, he acts like as killing would be nothing else but simple sport or exercise. Beside the fact that he doesn't like killing, he does love his brother. Since Papyrus is the youngest of these two, he always wants to protect Sans. So he always trained to become stronger and be able to always protect his older brother Sans. But since he got his job as a royal guardsman, he didn't have enough time to spend with his brother. But even then, they are still close enough to be there whenever one of them are in danger. The only reason why this bond isn't even stronger is because of Sans, since he always feels too weak and doesn't want to burden Papyrus, since he thinks that Papyrus would only see Sans as a burden, which isn't the case. Papyrus loves his brother dearly and wants to spend more time with him. So, what is Mr. Edgy Sans' lore story? It's actually pretty interesting. You see, it all started when Sans had a meeting with the king. We don't know exactly what the topic was that the king and Sans was discussing, but we can theorize of what the topic would be. Maybe it was about that Sans doesn't know how to get out of the underground and start a war with humanity. Maybe they talked about that Sans isn't as powerful as all the other monsters, or even about Gaster's mental state. But anyways, the end result was that Asgore tried to crush Sans' goal, and Papyrus jumping in to save his brother by attacking the king. Asgore was so amazed and so impressed by Papyrus and offered him to spare Sans' life and also give him a place in the royal guards. Papyrus agreed to these terms but was still punished by the king, because Asgore saw it as his kingly duty to punish someone who acts against the king. And so Asgore gave Papyrus his famous left eye scarf. This awakened Sans' power and he finally could use the most powerful magic in the underground. But Papyrus stopped Sans from using it against Asgore, since it would only hurt Sans as well as show to the whole underground Sans' power and would make him a walking target. And it would also undermine Papyrus' own sacrifice to save Sans. We all love Undertale use, but apparently we have no idea what is considered canon and what isn't. I mean, look at Underfell Sans. In the fandom stories, he is written as a sadistic jerk who gets off by the slightest thing, while canon Underfell Sans from the creator fella writes him completely different. For example, he dislikes puns, but loves knock-knock jokes. In the canon Underfell lore, he thinks highly about what looks cool and intimidating, which is why he wears a too hot sweater, which he considered as too hot for himself, which is why he wears short pants to cool himself down. But why is he dressing so cool for? The answer for that is that he wants to be considered as the cooler older brother in front of everyone in the underground. What is the relationship between Underfell Papyrus and Underfell Sans? In my last video I told you that Papyrus really wants to be seen as cool. But what I didn't tell you is that Sans also wants to be seen as a cool motherfucker. To be more specific, the coolest motherfucker underground. This results in a coolness battle against these brothers. These battles aren't in any way violent or sarcastic due to the fact that these two don't hate each other. In fact, they really care for each other. And before you ask, no, I don't mean it in a Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister way, where I need to get my banjo and start singing the song Sweet Home Alabama. But instead, all their disagreements end with a fine, whatever. And after that, they go their separate ways and doing their stuff. Fell Sans is the most powerful monster in the underground, since his magic is super strong and is based around emotional stress. And oh boy, has he a lot of stress. From being the old science lab assistant of a mentally unstable Dr. Gaster to being in an environment that follows the rule it's killed or be killed, and almost being killed by the king himself. You can believe that this skeleton has a lot of stress, but his power only showed himself when his brother got his left eye scarf, but more on that in the Sans origin video. But he can't control his powers, since his left eye always is in a glow state, and he doesn't know how to shut it down. But when Frisk is doing a betray run, where Flowey manipulates every monster into killing everyone, Sans steps up and decides to fight against Frisk. In this fight, he even opens his mouth and uses all of his magical abilities. But since he wants to flex with his power, he does control his magical flow to keep his 5 golden rings on his hand. Anyways, Fel Sans got the drip. This drip was based by this Animal Crossing character, and the shoes are actually based around classic Nike shoes. He also liked the squeak sound that the shoes are making, since it annoys everyone around him. Fel Sans also got his jacket from Grilby, since Sans was able to make Grilby laugh. But anyways, these were all the canon facts I could find. If you liked this Underfell video, please check out my other Underfell videos, which are depicted right here. So, goodbye for now.